The scorching sun beat down mercilessly on the desert planet's surface as Tom wiped the sweat from his brow. His environmental suit's cooling system was working overtime, but the triple suns of this world made even the most advanced human technology struggle. As Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, he had visited many worlds, but none as harsh as this one. The emergency distress beacon had led him here, to what appeared to be a crashed alien vessel half buried in the red sand. Tom checked his water supply, only half a canteen left, barely enough for his own survival until the rescue ship arrived. But someone needed help, and that's what humans did, they helped. As he approached the wreckage, he heard soft whimpers coming from inside. The ship's door was partially open, warped from the impact. Tom squeezed through the gap, his helmet's lights illuminating the dark interior. What he found inside made his heart skip a beat. A young alien girl, no more than the equivalent of a human teenager, sat huddled in a corner. Her skin was a pale blue, with delicate patterns that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. But it wasn't her appearance that caught Tom's attention, it was the small creatures scattered around her, clearly in distress. They looked like a cross between Earth's rabbits and butterflies, with soft fur and delicate, translucent wings. There were 5 of them, all breathing heavily in the oppressive heat. The alien girl looked up at Tom with large, silvery eyes filled with tears. "Please," she said in broken universal standard, "my pets, they cannot survive this heat. Our life support failed in the crash. They need water." She gestured to an empty water container beside her. "I gave them my last drops, but it's not enough." Tom looked at his water canteen, then at the suffering creatures. His training had prepared him for many situations, but not this. The rescue ship wouldn't arrive for at least 6 more hours. Without water, he might not survive that long in this heat. But looking at those innocent creatures and the desperate alien girl, he knew what he had to do. This was why humans had earned their place in the Galactic Council, not through superior technology or military might, but through their capacity for compassion and self-sacrifice. Tom unclipped his canteen and stepped forward, his decision made. The girl's eyes widened as she realized what he was about to do. "But, you need it to survive," she protested weakly. Tom smiled behind his helmet's visor. "We humans have a saying, no life is too small to save. Besides, I've got enough minerals and emergency supplements in my suit to hold out until rescue arrives. They need this more than I do." As he carefully shared his precious water among the alien pets, their breathing began to steady. The butterfly rabbit's wings started to glow with a soft, grateful light. The alien girl watched in amazement as this strange human willingly gave up his last water to save creatures he had never seen before. Little did Tom know, his simple act of kindness would soon become a legend among her people, and change the way her entire species viewed humanity forever. As the hours passed in the crashed ship, Tom felt the effects of dehydration beginning to take hold. His throat was parched, and his head throbbed, but seeing the alien pets recovering gave him strength. The butterfly rabbits had curled up around their owner, their wings now pulsing with a healthy blue glow that filled the ship's cabin with soft light. The alien girl, who had introduced herself as May, watched Tom with growing concern. She could see him struggling, even through his environmental suit. "The rescue ship," she said softly, "how much longer?" Tom checked his suit's chronometer. 3 more hours, he replied, his voice raspy. "Don't worry about me. I've been through worse during my training." That wasn't entirely true, but he wanted to keep her spirits up. May reached into a compartment near her seat and pulled out a small device. "This is a memory crystal," she explained, her voice gaining strength. "My people use them to record important moments. I want to record what you did here today. No one from my world has ever met a human before." As she activated the crystal, it floated in the air between them, capturing the scene. May began to speak in her native language, her melodic voice filling the cabin. Tom's universal translator worked to keep up, today I witnessed something extraordinary. When my ship crashed on this desert world, I thought all hope was lost. My beloved companions, the sacred light wings of my people, were dying. Then a human named Tom arrived. She continued speaking, explaining how the light wings weren't just pets, they were sacred creatures on her world, born only once every 100 cycles. Their wings captured the essence of starlight, and they were believed to carry the wisdom of the ancestors. Only a handful of her people were chosen to be their guardians, and May was the youngest ever selected. That's quite a responsibility, Tom said, trying to ignore his growing thirst. How did you end up here? May's expression darkened. I was transporting them to the great temple on my homeworld. But someone sabotaged my ship. There are those who believe the light wings should not be in the care of someone so young. She gently stroked one of the sleeping creatures. I managed to make an emergency landing here, but... She was interrupted by a sudden beeping from Tom's suit. Warning indicators flashed inside his helmet, his body temperature was rising to dangerous levels. The suit's cooling system was failing under the strain of the triple suns. One of the light wings stirred, sensing his distress. It fluttered over to Tom, landing on his shoulder. To his amazement, its wings began to pulse with a new intensity, and a cooling sensation spread through his body. The other light wings awakened and joined their companion, surrounding Tom in a gentle aurora of soothing light. May gasped. They're sharing their essence with you. This has never happened before. They're trying to help you the way you helped them. Tom watched in wonder as the light wing's energy merged with his suit's systems, stabilizing its temperature controls. The pounding in his head began to subside. These weren't just pets or even sacred creatures, they were intelligent beings capable of understanding and returning kindness. The memory crystal continued to float, recording everything. This moment would indeed become legend, but not just for Tom's sacrifice. It would mark the first time the light wings had chosen to share their power with an outsider, proving that compassion transcended species. As the light wings worked their magic, May smiled through tears. My people believe that true nobility is revealed in moments of crisis, she said. Today, you prove that humans possess a nobility that equals that of the light wings themselves. Little did either of them know that this was just the beginning. The real test of human compassion, and the true purpose of the light wings, was yet to come. A distant rumbling drew Tom's attention away from the light wings' ethereal display. At first, he thought it might be the rescue ship arriving early, but May's expression told him otherwise. Her face had gone pale, the shimmering patterns on her skin dulling with fear. They found us, she whispered, her voice trembling. The ones who sabotaged my ship. They must have tracked the light wing's energy signature. Tom moved to the ship's damaged viewport, careful not to disturb the light wings still helping maintain his suit's temperature. Through the swirling red sand, he could make out 3 dark shapes descending from the sky. They weren't rescue vessels, their design was too aggressive, with sharp angles and weapons clearly visible on their hulls. May, Tom said firmly, I need you to tell me everything. Who are they? What do they really want? The young alien guardian clutched the memory crystal close to her chest. They call themselves the Purifiers. They believe the light wing's power should be used for our military, not kept in temples. But the light wings. She looked at the gentle creatures with fierce protectiveness. They're peaceful beings. Using them as weapons would destroy their very essence. The enemy ships were getting closer. Tom's military training kicked in as he assessed their situation. The crashed ship offered some cover, but its systems were dead. His ambassador's beacon would lead the rescue team here eventually, but by then it might be too late. Suddenly, the light wings began to pulse with an intense frequency. The memory crystal in May's hands responded, glowing with the same rhythm. Complex patterns of light danced between the crystal and the creatures, forming what looked like a star map in the air between them. This is impossible, May breathed. The ancient texts spoke of this, but it was considered a myth. The light wings aren't just carriers of wisdom, they're a key to something much greater. Tom watched as the star map expanded, showing a specific location. What are they trying to tell us? There's an ancient temple network, hidden across the galaxy, May explained quickly, her eyes wide with understanding. The light wings were its guardians, protecting something our ancestors left behind. Something the purifiers must never find. The enemy ships had landed. Through the hull, they could hear the sound of boots on sand, approaching their position. Tom made a quick decision. How many temples are there? 7, May replied. But reaching even one would require dash. A human ambassador's ship, Tom finished, a plan forming in his mind. My rescue ship will have the range and diplomatic clearance to cross any borders in the galaxy. He smiled at the light wings, still hovering protectively around him. They saved my life. Now it's time to return the favor properly. A harsh voice echoed from outside, Guardian May. Surrender the light wings, and your death will be quick. Tom checked his suit systems, now stabilized thanks to the light wings' power. May, do you trust me? She looked at him, then at the light wings who had chosen to share their power with this human. Yes, she said without hesitation. Good. Because what I'm about to do is either going to save us all or get me fired as ambassador. Tom reached for his suit's emergency beacon and began modifying its signal. The purifiers are expecting to find a helpless guardian and her pets. Instead, they're about to learn why humans have a reputation for being the galaxy's most unpredictable species. The light wing sensed his intention, their wings blazing brighter. The memory crystal captured everything, recording what would become the first chapter of an adventure that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. The human who had given his last water to save some pets was about to become entangled in an ancient mystery that had waited millennia to be solved. And outside, unaware of what awaited them, the purifiers took their first steps toward a confrontation that would teach them why underestimating humanity was always a fatal mistake. Tom's fingers moved swiftly over his suit's emergency beacon controls. Years of diplomatic training had taught him that sometimes the best weapon was information, or in this case, misinformation. He adjusted the beacon to broadcast a very specific warning signal, one that would make any approaching ships think twice. What are you doing? May whispered, keeping her voice low as heavy footsteps circled their crashed ship. Making them think we're not alone, Tom replied with a grim smile. Every human diplomatic vessel is required to report signs of Class X biological contamination. Right now, I'm sending out a signal that suggests this. Crash site is infected with something very nasty. The footsteps outside hesitated. Tom's translator picked up harsh whispers as the purifiers discussed this new development. The light wings, still hovering around them, seemed to understand the plan. Their wings dimmed to an ominous red glow, adding to the illusion of danger. Guardian May. The voice outside had lost some of its confidence. Our sensors detect unusual energy patterns. Explain yourself. May looked at Tom, who nodded encouragingly. She raised her voice, fighting to keep it steady. The crash, it damaged the light wing's containment field. Their energy is becoming unstable. If you value your lives, stay back. It wasn't entirely a lie. The light wings were indeed emanating unusual energy patterns, but it was their choice, part of whatever ancient purpose they were trying to fulfill. The memory crystal continued recording, capturing every moment of this desperate gambit. They're not buying it, Tom muttered, watching the scanner on his suit. They're setting up energy weapons. We need a plan B. He turned to May. You said the light wings are connected to these temples. Can they communicate with them somehow? May's eyes widened. The crystal, in the ancient texts, it was said the memory crystals could act as beacons, calling to the temples in times of great need. But it requires tremendous energy. The light wings chirped in unison, their wings pulsing brighter. They gathered around the memory crystal, their energy merging with it. The star map they had created earlier reappeared, but this time it was different, more focused, showing the nearest temple's location with perfect clarity. Outside, the purifiers had finished their preparations. This is your final warning. Surrender now, or we'll breach the hull. Tom checked his suit's oxygen levels, still good, thanks to the light wings' help. May, if they breach the hull, be ready to hold your breath. And whatever happens next, keep that crystal safe. The light wings suddenly froze in mid-air, their wings spreading wide. The memory crystal began to vibrate, emitting a high-pitched tone that made Tom's teeth ache. Through the viewport, he could see the purifiers backing away, their weapons trained on the ship. That's when it happened. The crystal erupted with blinding light, and Tom felt a sensation like reality itself was being stretched. The light wings' energy merged completely with the crystal, creating a swirling vortex of power that filled the crashed ship's cabin. May! Tom shouted over the rising hum of energy. Is this supposed to happen? The text spoke of the light wings' power to bend space itself, she called back, her voice filled with awe. They're not just showing us the way to the temple, they're trying to take us there. The purifiers outside had finally had enough. Breach the hull. Stop them before dash. But their voices were drowned out by a sound like thunder as the light wings' power reached its peak. The last thing Tom saw before the light became overwhelming was the memory crystal pulsing in perfect rhythm with the light wings, as if they were all part of some vast, ancient mechanism that had waited eons to be activated. The galaxy's greatest secrets were about to be uncovered, and somehow, a human simple act of kindness had been the key to unlocking them all. The light faded, and Tom's vision slowly returned. The crashed ship was gone. Instead, he and May stood in a vast chamber that seemed to be carved from living crystal. The walls pulsed with the same ethereal light as the light wings, creating patterns that danced across the ancient surfaces. We made it, May whispered, her voice echoing in the massive space. The light wings circled around them, their energy seemingly renewed by their surroundings. The memory crystal in her hands had changed too, it now glowed with a constant, steady light that matched the chamber's walls. Tom checked his suit's systems, relieved to find them still functioning. Where exactly is it? He asked, taking in their surroundings. The chamber stretched up into darkness, its ceiling lost in shadows despite the glowing walls. This must be the first temple, May said, her eyes wide with wonder. The oldest of the 7, built before my people even reached the stars. She pointed to markings on the walls, complex symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. The light wings suddenly darted forward, leading them down a crystalline corridor. Their wings left trails of light in the air, creating a path for Tom and May to follow. As they walked, Tom noticed something strange about the temple's architecture. These proportions, he said, studying the doorways and passages they passed through. They're perfect for human height. He looked at May, who was slightly taller than him. But your people are generally taller than humans, aren't they? May nodded slowly, realization dawning on her face. The ancient texts, they never actually said my people built the temples. We assumed. Her voice trailed off as they entered a new chamber. This room was different. In its center stood a pedestal, and hovering above it was a hologram of the galaxy, but not as it looked now. Tom recognized the patterns of stars, but many of them were in slightly different positions. This was the galaxy as it had looked thousands, maybe millions of years ago. The light wings arranged themselves in a circle around the pedestal, their wings pulsing in sequence. The memory crystal in May's hands pulled free, floating up to join the hologram. As it touched the light, the entire room came alive with images. They saw flashes of an ancient human civilization, far more advanced than Earth's current technology. These humans had spread across the galaxy, building the temples as waypoints for something vast and important. The light wings had been their creation, not just pets or sacred beings, but guardians of knowledge that had been hidden away when some great danger threatened to destroy everything. Impossible, May breathed. All this time, the light wings weren't entrusted to my people. We were entrusted to them, to keep them safe until they found another human, Tom finished. His simple act of compassion, sharing his water with dying creatures, had proven him worthy of whatever knowledge the ancient humans had hidden away. The hologram shifted, showing a dark force spreading across the galaxy, the same threat that had caused the ancients to hide their knowledge. Tom's heart sank as he recognized the energy signature. It matched the readings his suit had picked up from the Purifier's weapons. "They're not just trying to use the light wings as weapons," he said grimly. "They've found something else, something left behind by whatever destroyed the ancient humans. That's why they want the light wings so badly." May gripped his arm in sudden fear. "Tom, the other temples. If the Purifiers find them before we do." The light wings gathered around them again, their wings now showing urgent patterns of light. The memory crystal pulsed with new information, coordinates to the other temples, and something else. A warning. They weren't the only ones racing to uncover the ancient humans' legacy. And somewhere out in space, a rescue ship was still heading for a crashed vessel on a desert planet, unaware that its passenger had stumbled into humanity's greatest mystery. A deep rumble shook the temple chamber, sending tiny crystals cascading from the ceiling. The hologram flickered as the light wings chirped in alarm, their wings flashing warning patterns of red and gold. "They followed us," Tom said, checking his suit's sensors. "The temple's activation must have left an energy trail they could track." He turned to May, who was clutching the memory crystal tightly. "How many exits does this place have?" Before she could answer, the hologram shifted, showing a three-dimensional map of the temple's interior. Dozens of passages branched out from their location, but one pulsed with particular brightness. The light wings immediately flew toward it, their urgency clear. "The ancients left us an escape route," May realized, her patterns glowing with excitement. "But what about the knowledge here? We can't let the Purifiers get their hands on it." Tom smiled behind his helmet. "I don't think we need to worry about that." He pointed to the walls, where the mysterious symbols were already fading, the living crystal dimming. "The temple is going dormant. Whatever was stored here has already been transferred to." He looked at the memory crystal in May's hands, which now shimmered with complex patterns beneath its surface. Another explosion rocked the chamber, closer this time. The Purifiers were blasting their way in. The light wings gathered around Tom and May, their wings creating a protective barrier of energy. The memory crystal pulsed in sync with them, projecting one last image from the ancient humans. It showed a devastating weapon, one that could harvest the very essence of stars. The ancient humans had discovered it, realized its terrible potential, and hidden away the key to its location. The light wings weren't just guardians of knowledge, they were pieces of a living map, their combined energy signatures forming a lock that could never be broken by force. "That's why the Purifiers want them," Tom said as they ran down the glowing escape passage. "They found traces of the weapon, but without the light wings, they can never access it." "But why did the ancient humans create such a thing in the first place?" May asked, her voice echoing off the crystal walls. "To understand that," Tom replied, "we need to find the other temples. The answers out there, spread across the galaxy like pieces of a puzzle." He paused as they reached a junction, letting the light wings guide their choice of path. "The question is, can we find them all before the Purifiers do?" The escape tunnel suddenly opened into a natural cave system. Ahead, a shaft of daylight pierced the darkness. They were on a different part of the desert planet, far from the crash site. Tom's suit immediately registered the harsh conditions outside, the triple suns were still blazing. But something was different. The light wings' energy had changed, becoming more focused. When they surrounded Tom this time, his suit's systems didn't just stabilize, they improved. The ancient humans had left more than just knowledge in their temples, they had left the means to survive finding it. Tom, May said suddenly, pointing to the memory crystal. It was projecting a new set of coordinates, along with a timer counting down. The next temple, it's going to activate soon. If we miss that window. Another explosion echoed through the tunnels behind them. The purifiers were getting closer. Tom quickly checked his suit's communication system. His rescue ship would be arriving at the crash site soon, finding nothing but angry purifiers. Well, he said, managing a grim smile, I always wanted to see more of the galaxy. Though I doubt the Galactic Council's diplomatic handbook covers going on the run with sacred alien pets while hunting for ancient human superweapons. The light wings chirped what sounded almost like laughter, their wings creating patterns that looked remarkably like star maps. They had chosen their human ally well, someone who understood that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with the smallest acts of kindness. Now they just had to survive long enough to solve humanity's oldest mystery. The desert wind howled outside the cave entrance as Tom and May watched the purifier's ships pass overhead, searching in the wrong direction. The light wings had dimmed their glow to avoid detection, but their presence was still comforting in the growing darkness. My rescue ship will be landing at the crash site any minute now, Tom said, checking his suit's chronometer. And when they find it empty. He turned to May with a determined expression. They'll follow protocol and alert the Galactic Council about my disappearance. May clutched the memory crystal, which now contained not just a record of Tom's kindness but the secrets of an ancient human civilization. Won't that make our mission harder? The entire galaxy will be looking for us. Tom smiled. Actually, it's exactly what we need. The purifiers can't openly attack a ship involved in a Galactic Council investigation. It gives us cover to search for the remaining temples. He paused, watching the light wings create intricate patterns in the air. Besides, I have a feeling we're not meant to do this alone. The memory crystal suddenly pulsed with new information, projecting a series of familiar faces, other guardians like May, chosen by the light wings across different worlds. Each one was young, idealistic, protecting their own group of the sacred creatures without knowing their true purpose. They're all in danger, May realized. The purifiers will go after them too, trying to gather all the pieces of the map. Then we'll get to them first, Tom said firmly. Your people weren't chosen by accident to protect the light wings. The ancient humans must have seen something in them, the same capacity for compassion and dedication that made you risk everything to save your charges. The light wings circled them excitedly, their wings creating images of distant worlds and strange temples waiting to be discovered. The memory crystal merged these images with its stored data, forming a clear plan of action. They would need to gather the other guardians and their light wings, unite them in a way that hadn't been done for millennia. But why now? May asked, watching the crystal's display. Why did the light wings choose this moment to reveal everything? Tom thought about the weapon the ancient humans had hidden, powerful enough to harvest stars. Because they sensed the same thing in the purifiers that the ancients once faced, the desire for power at any cost. They needed to wait for the right moment, and the right people, to trust with their secret. Outside, the purifiers' ships disappeared over the horizon. The light wings immediately brightened, their wings creating a shimmering dome of energy around Tom and May. The memory crystal floated up, projecting the coordinates of their first destination, another temple, on a world of endless oceans. It all started with some water, Tom mused, remembering how this adventure began. Funny how the smallest choices can change everything. May smiled, her patterns glowing with renewed hope. You proved something my people have always believed, that true greatness lies not in grand gestures, but in simple acts of kindness. The light wings saw that in you. The crystal's projection shifted. One last time, showing their immediate way forward, a small trading port on the planet's far side, where they could find transport off-world. They would have to move quickly, gather allies, and stay ahead of both the Purifiers and the well-meaning Galactic Council search parties. But as Tom looked at the light wings, now eager to begin their true mission, he knew that this was exactly where he was meant to be. Sometimes the greatest adventures in life started with the smallest choices, like sharing your last water with some strange alien pets. Well, he said, straightening up and checking his suit's systems one last time, shall we go save the galaxy? The light wings chirped in agreement, their wings blazing with the combined wisdom and power of an ancient human legacy. And as they set out across the desert, guided by creatures that bridged the gap between humanity's past and future, they knew that this was just the beginning of a story that would be remembered for generations to come. The galaxy was about to learn what the ancient humans had known all along, that true power lay not in weapons that could harvest stars, but in hearts willing to sacrifice everything to protect life in all its forms.